All right, let us talk about something you've probably heard in the news or in climate debates. Nitrogen. Yep, nitrogen. It doesn't sound exciting, it's not as flashy as carbon dioxide or as scary as melting glaciers, but trust me, it matters. A lot. And it is actually a big player in both the climate crisis and the health of our ecosystems. So, what's the deal with nitrogen? First of all, nitrogen is everywhere. It makes up about 78% of the air we breathe. But in that form, N2, it's totally harmless. The trouble starts when we take nitrogen and turn it into reactive forms, like ammonia, NH3, nitrogen oxides, NOx, and nitrous oxide, N2O. These compounds come from stuff like fertilizer, livestock manure, car engines, and factories. And once they're out in the world, they cause all kinds of problems. Let's zoom in on agriculture first, because that's where most of the human-made nitrogen comes from. Farmers use nitrogen-based fertilizers to grow crops faster. It works. Plants love nitrogen. The problem is, way more nitrogen gets used than crops can actually absorb. So, a lot of it leaks into the environment, into the air, the soil, and especially the water. This excess nitrogen doesn't just vanish. It creates dead zones in oceans, pollutes drinking water, and messes with biodiversity. But we'll get to that in a second. Let's focus on climate for now. One of the most important nitrogen compounds for climate change is nitrous oxide, or N2O. Ever heard of it? It is the third most important greenhouse gas after carbon dioxide and methane, and it is about 300 times more powerful than CO2 when it comes to trapping heat in the atmosphere. Let that sink in. 300 times stronger. Where does nitrous oxide come from? Mostly from agriculture. Again, fertilizers and manure. When nitrogen fertilizers break down in the soil, microbes convert some of it into nitrous oxide, which then floats up into the atmosphere and sticks around for more than a century. So every time we over-fertilize a field, we're not just feeding crops. We're also quietly feeding the climate crisis. Now here's the twist. Nitrogen emissions are not just about climate. They also cause air pollution. For example, nitrogen oxides, NO and NO2, come from cars, trucks, and industry. They combine with other stuff in the air and form smog. They also help create ground-level ozone, which is harmful to breathe and bad for crops. Plus, when nitrogen oxides react with ammonia in the air, which comes from manure and fertilizer, they form fine particulate matter, also known as PM2.5. And those tiny particles, they get into your lungs, your bloodstream, even your brain. It's linked to heart disease, asthma, and early death. So yeah, nitrogen's impact goes way beyond just the climate. Quick pause right here. If you are still watching and this video is helping you make sense of a complicated topic, give it a like. It really helps push this video out to more people. And if you want more videos like this, real clear, no nonsense, then hit that subscribe button too. All right, let's keep going. Back to nitrogen. It's also a biodiversity killer. When too much nitrogen gets into soil and water, it makes some plants grow like crazy, like grasses and weeds, while other species die off. It messes up the natural balance. Forests change, wetlands dry out, species disappear. In water, nitrogen causes algal blooms, huge explosions of algae that suck all the oxygen out of rivers, lakes, and oceans. This creates dead zones where fish and other life can't survive. The Gulf of Mexico has a dead zone the size of New Jersey every summer, mostly thanks to nitrogen runoff from farms in the Midwest. So you've got a gas that warms the planet, pollutes the air, kills ecosystems, and hurts our health. Sounds like something we should be paying more attention to, right? And we are, kind of. But it's tricky, because nitrogen is also essential. We need it to grow food. Without synthetic fertilizers, we couldn't feed 8 billion people. That's just the truth. But the way we use nitrogen now is incredibly wasteful and damaging. Experts estimate that only about 50% of nitrogen applied to crops is actually used by the plants. The rest? It leaks into the environment. That's billions of dollars of waste every year, and an even bigger environmental cost. So what can we do about it? Well, smarter farming is a big one. Precision agriculture can help, using technology to apply exactly the right amount of fertilizer at the right time. Also, planting cover crops, rotating crops, and improving soil health can reduce the need for extra nitrogen in the first place. Some countries are experimenting with stricter limits on livestock or nitrogen use. The Netherlands, for example, has been in the news for trying to reduce nitrogen pollution by cutting back on intensive farming. It's controversial, but it shows how serious the problem is getting. There's also research into better fertilizers that don't release as much nitrous oxide, and even new ways to capture or break down nitrogen pollution before it escapes into the air or water. But these solutions need support, investment, and most importantly, public understanding. Because let us be real, as most people have no idea how nitrogen works or why it matters. We hear about carbon dioxide all the time, and sure, that's the biggest climate driver. But nitrogen is like this silent sidekick that's actually causing a huge chunk of the damage, both to the planet and to our health. And it doesn't get the same attention. The bottom line is, we can't fight climate change effectively without dealing with nitrogen. We can't protect biodiversity without cutting nitrogen pollution. And we definitely can't keep polluting our air and water and expect to stay healthy. It's all connected. Food, farming, climate, nature, people. If we get nitrogen under control, we help solve multiple problems at once. So next time you hear about nitrogen crisis or N2O emissions, tune out. That stuff matters. It's one of the invisible forces shaping the future of the planet. And if we're smart about it, we can fix it, without starving anyone or shutting everything down. It just takes smarter systems, better choices, and a little more awareness. Thanks for sticking with me to the end. If this helped clear things up for you, give it a like and consider subscribing. I've got more of these clear explanation videos coming soon. See you in the next one.